Good evening, everybody. We are live. Welcome to Never Mind the Buy Box. My name is Natalie Cromie, and I am the content director here at the Secret Wealth Project Facebook group. And this evening, I am joined by Dan Gibbs, who is welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining us. Dan is a seasoned Amazon seller as well as a prep center owner. And tonight we are going to be finding out a little bit more about Dan, his Amazon journey, and also talking Q4 prep, which is a bit different to the Q4 prep session that we had last week, because I was talking about Q4 preparation. But tonight we're going to be talking about actual prep, putting things in boxes, taping them up and sending them to Amazon.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, just wanted to clear that up. So thanks for joining us, Dan. It's great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, no, good. Pleased to be here. I was just saying before the call, I've been a member of this community for quite a while, so it's quite weird. It's quite weird to be on the webinar, I think.
I think that's the thing as well. When people come on, they're sort of like, oh, okay, this is like, you know, a little bit nerve-wracking, or it might be a little bit out of your comfort zone or something like that. And it's weird when you're actually on it, when you've been watching it. So, you know, yeah. And I literally messaged you this week. We've been talking for some time and I was like, I've got a slot opened up. Do you want to come on? You were like, yeah. And I was like, excellent. I love it when people take action, you know, and say yes immediately. But what we haven't done this evening already is, hi Harminder, I can see a few people that are jumping on and joining us already. But can you let us know if you can see and hear us okay? Give us a like, give us a love, just so it helps send out the notification to let people know that we're here and we are live. I've been experimenting with like new ways of letting people know what we're doing through events and whatnot, and so I don't know if it actually works or not, so hopefully I'm in the comments, so fingers crossed. I haven't seen anyone jump on from YouTube yet, so hopefully that's gone out, but I'm sure someone will let us know. So for everyone that's watching tonight, it would be really good to get a feel of if you're currently selling on Amazon, which I assume most of the people that are going to be watching this are, or they're thinking about selling on Amazon. Just let us know. Are you currently using a prep center? Are you prepping yourself? Is Q4 a time when you're thinking about, you know, taking a prep center on? Are you in a Del Boy situation? Is your house surrounded by boxes stacked up everywhere? You know, let us know. Let us know in the comments for sure. Simon's joined us. Evening, Simon. Yeah, so let us know any questions as we go along. But before we dive into that, Dan, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started on Amazon, because like I said, you've been, you know, a self-confessed lurker in the group essentially, but you're a really experienced Amazon seller, posting some, you know, great figures in the arbitrage world. So if you let us know about how and when you started selling on Amazon and where it's kind of led to.
Yeah, so just to kick off, essentially it was probably late 2017 is when I actually started selling. It was when I was working through a company. Someone was actually selling inside of that company, and they kind of let me in on the secret. I've always kind of dabbled in other little online entrepreneurship kind of ideas, I think, kind of growing up. And I think it was quite clear to me when I'd kind of stumbled across Amazon FBA that the risk for reward inside this kind of business model is just, it far outweighed anything I'd really kind of researched before. And through kind of initially setting it up and kind of giving it a bit of a go, bit of a research, I think the results were actually like really quick as well. So yeah, late 2017, right the way through till today. Absolutely loved it, pretty much the entire time, absolutely obsessed with it, in fact. I think it's just great to see that kind of, I think the opportunities just kind of keep arising from it. I've never known any other business model to have so many different avenues once you kind of understand it and once you're able to really kind of push forward in the area.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing, you know, when most people kind of stumble, and most people do stumble onto the business, whether or not it's through a recommendation, or whether or not someone discovers a group or a YouTube channel like the Secret Wealth Project, people will sort of like have a look at it and they're like, is this real? But you actually, you joined right in the middle of Q4 in 2017. So it must have like hit you bam, straight in the face, a bit like, okay, I'm looking at this, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
And it's Q4 craziness. So was that, a good thing straight away because you saw the power of Amazon, which some people have to wait quite a long time to see? Or
that's a good question. And I think, kind of joining Q4, I think there are kind of two ways of looking at it. It's either you obviously experience the mad rush straight away. And I think if you don't understand that in Q4, kind of the traffic does pick up like a massive amount. And obviously kind of in the month that kind of follow your January, February, March, you're not going to have kind of the same amount of traffic. I think maybe experiencing it in Q4 probably put me off on a very good foot. So I was able to kind of turn, and I really did start as well. I really did start with kind of maybe 500 to £1,000. It was really, I was a student at the time. Yeah, I was a student at the time. So it was really just a bit of a kind of put a bit of money into it. Wasn't much at all, but then I think I quickly saw a return on it, and thought to myself, if I can kind of keep reinvesting in this business and really keep it going, something really good can come from this. And I think that kind of the very Q4 beginning, that November, December time of being able to double, triple your money almost, where it was kind of that, it was that easy at the time. It was certainly something that got me hooked pretty much straight away. And then kind of, I think right the way through the year from January to the next November, was prepping for the next Q4 and making sure I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, it could be a little bit of a double-edged sword. Starting at that time, you think, oh my God, this is crazy. I don't want to deal with this. And it could have put you off, it could have gone the other way essentially, but it didn't. It built that kind of validation. Just before we move on, I'm going to say hello, because it's rude not to. Jed's joined us, evening. Jane's joined us. Tammy says hello. Who else have we got? We've got Paul, we've got Catherine says, my house is surrounded by boxes. I feel that that's a rite of passage for sure. For any Amazon seller, if your house has not been stacked up Del Boy style with boxes at some point, like literally I joke to people even now, 6 years in, 5 years in or whatever, I joke if I was to open that door behind me, there's boxes out there still. There always is. There's always, I think when you're that way inclined, you've always got a stack of boxes, even far, no matter how far your business has progressed. Just to catch up for anyone, because loads of you, and the notification must have gone out because loads of you have jumped on now. So just a bit of a catch up. Any questions, let us know what you're doing with prep this Q4. Whether or not you're looking to use a prep center, or if you're gonna power through prep yourself, or if it's something that you'd like to think about, obviously let us know and we will do our best to answer any questions as we go through. So, Dan, started with 500, 1,000 quid, started in Q4, and then all of a sudden, bam, it hits you in the face. And then the reality of this power of Amazon, you took on the challenge. Fast forward a few years later, you actually took a little bit of a different turn to most traditional UK arbitrageurs, in the sense that you started to focus your business outside of the UK. Is that right?
I did. I got more hooked on the pan-EU side of things. So selling through pan-European, for those that kind of don't know, obviously you have the UK business model, where you sell UK to UK. Pan-European is kind of where you're storing your stock in other countries, and then it's being sent out. Let's say you can store your stock in Germany, and it could be sent out kind of straight away to Spain. So you kind of reach the different locales. I think the reason kind of choosing this maybe was it was a little bit more complicated, which I think I saw as a way in terms of like kind of barriers to entry inside of that market. So if you could kind of commit the learning, understand it, and get through it, the competition wasn't really there. You hear a lot of kind of price tanking in the UK, which is kind of part of the business model nowadays of kind of getting around it. But during the time that I was selling in the kind of the pan EU space, that wasn't massively a thing. So I think it was something that I might have stumbled across, really enjoyed, had quite a good product sourcing technique as well, which was kind of like a manual sourcing technique through some kind of golden parameters, I guess, I'd kind of found through Keeper. Really seemed to work for me. And I think it was maybe just one of those where if it's not broke, kind of don't fix it. And I just kind of stuck at it for a couple of years in that space. Yeah.
And then the UK referendum broke it for you, essentially.
Yeah. And then it had my world come crashing down.
No comments, please, if you're pro-Brexit or you're not pro-Brexit. That is a non-political statement, just to make that absolutely clear. Before someone says, oh, worst thing ever or best thing ever. Honestly, that was a Switzerland statement for sure. There's nothing political here. But in reality, obviously, Brexit did kill that.
Yeah, so 95% of my revenue at the time of Brexit was pan EU. So it was completely over there. I've always kind of dabbled in the UK market, but I think I never really threw myself into it to the extent that I am like now, I'd say. But yeah, kind of Brexit came along and it was just a hard reality of you've got to be agile and you've got to adapt.
Mm-hmm. When did you, knowing, obviously we knew that we were Brexiting for 2 years, we knew that it was going to happen at some period of time, whether or not people actually thought it was going to happen, obviously, in reality, it was going to happen. When did you, because like you said, 95%, you knew it wasn't realistic to continue to move forward. When did you start to take your focus off of the EU? Did you run it right up until the last minute and then transfer it over, or was there a transitional period?
Yeah, no. So I was definitely in denial, I think, a little bit. So it got right up until the deadline. And I think in my head, I almost just thought Amazon was at this stage too big to let something like pan EU kind of fall by the wayside, I think, for the time being. So I really did almost, in terms of my risk mitigation, it was pretty terrible, I think, up until that point. I think it hit about January. I really researched Brexit customs, kind of HS codes, getting your stuff through, pallets, but the mass shortage of kind of like the logistics and things like that just to get things over really impacted it. And I think maybe 2 months in, I kind of said, all right, fair enough. I need to move, and I threw myself into the UK model. Yeah.
And how's that transition been?
You know what? I never thought I'd say it, but I think I am a true believer now in the UK model. In terms of the pan EU business model, it was always more 30 to 40 ASINs that would be high selling, kind of your 200 to 300 a month, where very low competition. It'd be kind of a very niched industry that you'd be selling in. What I love about the UK model is you can spread your risk so much more. You're not relying on just a couple of ASINs. So, for example, I've gone from having very high propensity, like kind of high selling ASINs that are doing maybe like kind of top 1,000 bestseller ranks, maybe 40 of those, to let's say 300, 400 ASINs in the UK, which are 40,000 to 80,000 in terms of the bestseller ranks. So I've gone from selling a lot of a few ASINs to kind of a little to a lot of ASINs, if that makes sense. So in terms of kind of the risk, if you were to lose one of your ASINs out of 40, that can have quite a big dent on your revenue. But if you lose one of your ASINs out of 350 or 400, then it's not something that really touches you. So I'll probably sleep better at night, I'd say, with the UK model. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really. I've never heard anyone say that before. So that's a really interesting insight. I mean, I completely agree. You know, the type of selling model that I run is a lot lower ASINs than the traditional arbitrage model. So you're absolutely right. If we lose one for whatever reason, the market becomes too saturated, we get a run of bad reviews on the product and the sales dip, or something like that, or whatever reason, you're absolutely right. for sure. And I'd never really looked at it from that point of view. So if you are somebody that prefers that level of security and spreading the risk, then, you know, certainly that the arbitrage model is something. You're never just relying and waiting, you know, because there are people out there, obviously, that have private label products. They have one private label product that might be doing 5 million a year. Can you imagine the sleepless nights with that?
No, I can't at all.
I would not be able to handle that. So I'd be a nervous wreck, I think, the whole time. So obviously you successfully made the transition. Hi, Pauline. I just want to say hi. Obviously, any questions, let us know as we're going along. But you made the successful transition. And we're not talking about chump change here. You know, collectively, you've sold over 7 figures on Amazon since you've started. I hope you don't mind me saying, you know, you're getting up to the top end of doing
definitely
late 6 figures in your business currently as it stands at arbitrage. And you started with 500,000 quid, you know. That's cool. A massive achievement. And I think further testament to the fact that a lot of, you're not by any stretch of the imagination a new seller, but to go from that, you know, less than 4 years ago to where you are now, building an annual 7-figure business, I think it's a massive achievement, especially when you've had to, in that period of time, change your whole business model as well.
And I think kind of it goes back to the point of where if you do throw into Amazon and you do really understand it, even if kind of these blockers come along, like kind of Brexit in this case, having that knowledge just opens so many other opportunities for you, that you're able to kind of take it on the chin. There are loads of other opportunities that you can move into, but kind of having that core knowledge is just kind of vital, I think, and it's so valuable.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, obviously, you were selling in Europe during the pandemic, not really selling here in the UK. And I think a lot of people openly will say that the business growth that they've experienced over the last kind of 12 to 18 months has been off the back of the pandemic. But of course, what were the sales like in the European models when you're focusing on that during the pandemic? Were they as crazy as they were here?
Yeah, it was mental. It was crazy. I really did think, I was like, this is it. Fantastic. But I think kind of it. Yeah, I think from the inside, I heard a few statistics of just saying Amazon had basically leapt about 10 years in 8 months with the pandemic that came along, just in terms of consumer behavior, in terms of shopping trends, in terms of just the general traffic that was now going over the internet. I think demographics that had never normally shopped on Amazon were now shopping on Amazon. You had rafts of people that were coming in, and I think that just kind of repeated traffic that just flowed for months and months and months. Yeah, it was very fun to kind of be amongst. I think there are a few kind of beauty products that I was selling at the time, which I think I can't remember what it was, but they hit a TikTok trend or something like that around the same time.
Oh, wow!
No idea what happened, but I mean, they flew to kind of a top 5 in beauty in Germany, and it just kind of all coupled together. It was amazing. So yeah, no, I think if there's any kind of, I hate to say a silver lining that comes out of the pandemic, really. But I think for kind of helping people on their Amazon businesses, and really, I'd almost go as far to say in terms of the UK model as well, really helping that. I think the extra traffic that's come in to what some sellers kind of come in and think is quite a saturated market has almost reinvigorated it, and it's thrust it forward into a period where now there's just so much opportunity there. If you know your stuff and you're going about it in the right way.
Absolutely. Before we move on, and we start talking about the prep side of things. Hi, Fahana. Hope everyone is well. But before we move on and start talking about the prep side of things, do you feel that the arbitrage model is the model that you're going to stay in, or do you feel that you're going to try some of the other selling models, expand into different geographical locations? Where are you in terms of expanding that that selling?
It's a good question. I've always been looking into kind of private label, I think, just as a potentially a long-term solution. I know that everyone says this, but I think the issue is that I've now been selling online arbitrage for 4 years, and I do think in terms of barriers to entry to get in terms of like the risk of your money, if you know what you're doing, you're buying kind of products with decent selling ranks, you know they're going to sell. You can almost work out an ROI where if you're investing your money and you're getting 20% out of that investment, it's a fantastic way to kind of invest your money if you know what you're doing. Private label, you've obviously got that element of kind of sunk costs and kind of throwing in quite a higher cost to start with. You then have to kind of talk about advertising. You need to know your way around optimizing ad campaigns. I think if you can crack private label, I think that's where your big money is, in my opinion. Like your big money. I think it's always been something that I've never thrown my time into fully. I've done a few in the past, but I've always just floated back. to online arbitrage. I've always loved it. And whether it's just because it is just reselling at its core, and to me, I get a real kind of buzz out of that, of just kind of at its core, like flipping a product. And I think it's brilliant, especially kind of given the automation that online arbitrage can bring. And if you do, I mean, I reckon nowadays I probably spend 20-30 minutes a day kind of on my probably, if that, I'd say, just because online arbitrage, you can systemize everything, you can implement processes to completely kind of take away anything that's operational off your plate. And once you kind of slowly go through and take away all these operational jobs, by the end of it, you're actually left with very little that you need to do. So I think it's always been the efficiency side of online arbitrage that's always really attracted me. Wholesale, to be honest with you, I've never. I might be missing a massive trick here, but I've for some reason never really gone into it. Whether it has always just been like I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. No, I was going to say, so wholesale, if anyone's got any tips, please.
Well, I think that we can all get shiny object syndrome. We can all look at different types of things. And if you are making the model work for you, and especially you're outsourcing it and you're spending a little time, and I want to focus on that for a couple of minutes, because I know that there will be so many people watching right now, and so many people that will watch this video in the future, and they'll be like, okay, you started talking about prep, but I want to hear a little bit more about the automation. I was going to say automation of the online arbitrage business, because that is, the dream for a lot of people, to be able to, you're a young guy, obviously, and, the world's at your feet, the world's your oyster. You could, at any point, yes, I know we're talking about, obviously, you run a prep center as well, but at any point, if you've automated your business, you could just pick up, you could run it from anywhere in the world, presumably. And, that's so many people's dream. So I feel it would be a bit irresponsible if we just moved on, didn't, cover some of those areas. So when did you automate your business and how did you do it? And
very late on, and I kick myself for it, to be honest with you. Am I allowed to shout out the guy that made it possible? If that's
absolutely.
Yeah. So a big one to Thomas Parkinson, right there. Incredible business, incredible service for what he does. And I think up until that point, especially in the Pan EU, I'll always say so. In the Pan EU business model, I was always able to do it myself. When I was dealing with 30 to 40 ASINs, that was fine. I could do it myself. I was maybe spending 2, 3, 4 hours a day on the business, and it was a little bit more taxing. But I think the moment I moved over to the UK model, that was where, nice one, Thomas. The moment I moved over to the UK. Are you
following me today, Thomas? I've been talking to him today as well.
The moment I moved over to the UK model, it was very clear that I needed help. I needed, and it comes back to those. The more you want to automate it, the more you have to invest, and kind of the more systems you have to implement. And with implementing systems, I think the realization is if you can have someone which is kind of really capable and really understands what they're doing and they're really committed to the cause in your business, you can do pretty much anything, I think. And Thomas, he definitely made that possible with his service. So I've got April, Erica, and Ivy. Shout out to them; they're absolutely fantastic. Working underneath me. Yeah. I don't think they'll be watching, to be honest. I know. They'll have to watch a bit of a repeat, I think. But they're fantastic. I think you don't realise what is capable. You don't realise what is capable until you really do experience it, and it goes so far for me to almost think that I don't think I'd ever even start a business nowadays and not hire a virtual assistant. And to be honest with you, we don't even call them virtual assistants. They're team members. They are literally nowadays in the world we live in, where basically everyone is virtual. Especially for our prep center, kind of having a few of the guys in there that we've hired through Thomas's service again, revolutionized what we were able to do, kind of in terms of what we were able to offer to clients. It was just fantastic. So the purchasing, the product sourcing now for my own personal business is all done through kind of automated procedures with these virtual assistants. And they're just fantastic. Like, honestly, for anyone that's kind of on the edge and wondering about it, I'd always say get a very firm understanding of what it is you need to teach them. Okay, so it's not as if hiring a virtual assistant is going to completely solve your worries, but you need to treat them like a very intelligent kind of blank slate that's willing to learn. And if you can kind of really invest the time into these people, treat them as a team member, really get them on your side, and kind of like honestly treat them with respect and get them with like on board on your mission, they're fantastic. Yeah, they're brilliant.
Well, I can just tell that from the way that you're speaking about it, from the way that, you show such enthusiasm with it. I understand why you've made it work so well for you, because like I said, a lot of people, it's a massive learning curve, regardless of how well they're recruited. Obviously you use Thomas's service in order to do it, which we know obviously comes with, very high recommendation and, great reputation and everything like that. But you do have to spend the time investing in the people that are going to be helping to grow your business.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And I think the moment you figure that out, the kind of you almost want to pour more time into them, because the work ethic is unmatched. And I think when they recognize as well that there's a real kind of mutual respect there, and you're working to the same goal, I think they're just equally keen to. There's almost a switch as well, where after a few months of you kind of teaching them, I mean, they teach me stuff now. They're fantastic. They go away. They themselves are learning, and they're coming to me. They're the ones that are innovating in the business, which has just been a life lesson for me in terms of kind of managing and really kind of trying to train up the people underneath you to almost be better than you. That's the dream, right? If they can be running a business and they're better than you are, then you've got them pretty well placed, I think.
I love that, and I think I can now see why you get the results that you do out of the team members, because you talk about them with such respect, you talk about them as part of the team, you communicate them, you encourage them to grow, you encourage them to learn, and like I said, that it sounds easy, but it's not.
Yeah. One tip that we love in the prep center is we try and speak a little bit of Filipino with them. So kind of your standard phrases and things like that, if you can kind of level with them and kind of like go into that culture a little bit more. I mean, they absolutely love it, and then at the same time you get to learn a wicked language, so it's good.
That's awesome. Do you ever see yourself going to the Philippines in the future?
I would love to. We've already said to especially the guys at the prep center that have been with us for a while now. The moment things are open, we'll all be over there. We'll all be having a holiday together. Yeah, for sure. And we'd love to get them over here as well. Like we'd love. We'd love for them to experience it. They're literally friends now. Like the guys in the prep centers that are doing. So we've got like a head of shipment creation. We've got a head of kind of issue resolution, things like that. Oh yeah, they're fantastic, and they're just mates nowadays. So it's great.
No, I love it. I can totally see why it's working for you, Dan. Yeah, 100% having, that camaraderie with your team, and it shows in the enthusiasm of how you're talking about it, for sure. Catherine says, been to the Philippines. It's beautiful. Totally recommend it. So yeah, awesome recommendation for sure. So maybe when you're over there, we can do a live or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be awesome for sure. Right, so you outsourced it through the use of VAs. Sourcing is a big part of this business, but the other big part of this business, of course, is prep. So what did you do first? Did you do the VAs or did you do the prep first?
I did the prep. I literally prepped for years.
Sensible man.
every night I'd sit there, which, to be honest with you, sounds ridiculous now. I think back, I'd always put on the amount of Netflix that I'd binge through. I'd essentially kind of finish my day. It was university when I first started. Finished the day of university, then I'd have sound like a loser here. Kind of a few hours at night, I'd just be sat there labeling away, kind of prepping the boxes up, and then getting them out. Yeah. So it was about 2 years of prep myself, I think. Bit of a control freak, I'd say, in terms of when I first started out.
Yeah, well, good for you for managing to do it. It's something that I actually never, I was talking to Thomas about this earlier as well. I actually never successfully outsourced fully the arbitrage business. And I think that was the reason why I ended up moving away from traditional arbitrage, because of that element of control. And I really struggled to be able to, let it go completely. Whereas what I do now, it has to have a certain level of my control in it. And by the way, I'm not recommending this whatsoever, because I do say it's one of the, maybe not the regrets, but definitely one of the things that definitely held me back within my business. Because if you manage to successfully outsource your business, then there's no reason why you can't have your cake and eat it. So like you were talking about private label earlier, so there's no reason whatsoever why you can't go on and build it, because your arbitrage business is pretty much automated. Your time has been freed up to be able to do that. And I think that if you're someone that maybe struggles to do that, we're all not the same, obviously, of course, but for sure, well done to anyone that is able to do that. It was something I always feel a little bit, I can never really talk about that side.
It is a scary thing, though. Like when you're throwing in thousands of pounds into your business and you're looking at this tangible stock, to be trusting someone else kind of with that pretty much off the bat, when you don't really understand the business model yourself. I mean, it can be quite daunting to kind of throw that amount of money over into a service where you don't really know what's going on, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, if anyone can hear any screaming outside or any shouting, my kids are outside playing football because it's lovely weather. So I want them to, get out and enjoy as much as possible. But I have to leave the window open, because if I shut the window, I'm going to die. It's so hot in here. Essentially. So sorry guys, just a spoiler alert, if you can hear any screaming or yelping, no one's being killed outside, just the kids outside having some good old-fashioned fun. So outsource the prep, outsource the sourcing, automated your business. Then you're in a position where presumably, this is me assuming, you're twiddling your thumbs a little bit and you're thinking, right, what can I do next in my Amazon journey? So what happened after that?
Yeah, that was very much kind of when the prep center came along, I think. I think again, I'd always had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to build with the prep center, and it's kind of completely different really from your standard prep center in terms of the business model that we went for. For one, it's very much a boutique prep center. It's very small. We're not like a behemoth in comparison to some of the guys out there with the major operations. But I think what essentially happened is myself, a few other friends that were also selling on Amazon, we wanted to in-house our prep anyway. I think a lot of people get to a point where they're kind of selling enough units that they think, okay, if I in-house it and I kind of have my own systems here, you can save quite a lot of money. And it's something that I'd always almost recommend to people if they're able to have the means to do it. I think the difference, which is quite important when you're kind of searching for a prep center, is to be making sure the people that you're finding, you're using a prep center. You're not using a person who's prepping themselves and also is then going to prep for other people. I think there's quite a difference between the two things, because one has had kind of standardized processes and potentially just a little bit more security for these people that are just starting out. The others can be a little bit risky. So I think what we wanted to basically do is in-house our prep and have a very long pilot stage where it was just myself and two other people, where we spent months and months and months of kind of standardizing processes, making sure that kind of quality checks were always able to be made, security was there, and it was scalable as well. And then we kind of got to the point where we'd stumbled across a way of kind of creating the shipment workflows and kind of getting the stock from one area at the start of the business right the way through to the end of the business in kind of a very smooth way. And I think there was a bit of a light bulb moment where we did think, okay, we can now add people into this business model and it will grow. We don't have to be that kind of almost hypocritical about what we were thinking for people who were prepping themselves, and then suddenly they go, right, I'm a prep center straight from the bat. So I think what we did is we did, and we always grew, and we said to ourselves that we wanted an ethos of always making sure if we were to take on another 5 clients, our existing clients were never going to kind of feel the brunt of that. So in the kind of year and a half that we've been going, we've had a very kind of slow growth period, but that's kind of been something that we've always said to ourselves. We always want to grow at the rate where the existing clients are never going to kind of feel that those new clients coming in, we didn't want them being kind of pushed to the side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's key. You know, so many prep centers make that, I'm not going to say a mistake, because at the end of the day, it's a learning experience. And, you know, a lot of people, I know people that have started prep centers that are, you know, 7-figure sellers and things like that. And I don't feel, even now where there's more prep centers, you know, when we originally started Easy Prep a few years ago, there were not a lot of decent prep centers around. And whereas now, I think where people have seen that there is opportunity and there is need for, you know, opening a prep center and things like that, people require a different level of service now. Whereas, you know, prep centers a few years ago, they were pretty shocking to be. So when good ones came along, they filled up really, really quickly. But then even then, what could happen is they filled up really quickly and they became overwhelmed, you know, with the amount of stuff, with the amount of demand there was. You know, Amazon FBA is what it says on the tin. The reason why people are so attracted to this particular model is because it can become a hands-off business. You know, isn't it crazy that you can sell products through a portal that you might never have seen or touched or something like that? So that element becomes very, very attractive to people. And obviously adding a prep center in is part of, you know, the link of that chain. So it's really refreshing to hear that when you started yours, you wanted to be able to grow as you know, essentially before.
Sorry to just interject that. Just to build on your point before, where essentially we always do say this, the demand in the industry for a prep center, it is mental. It is crazy. Like, and this is the issue. You have the prep centers that they start and they take on 100 clients, kind of thinking this is going to be the best thing ever. And I think the bit that really gets to me is they're not thinking that every one of those individual clients is starting their Amazon business, and it's vital to get their stock in, and it's vital not to lose their stock. And a poorly designed prep center can be almost failing these people's Amazon businesses right from the off, which is why we just say it's so important just to kind of either go for the tried and tested big guys, like you guys exactly, that we kind of aspire to be. or kind of
no, Easy Prep is not a big prep center by any stretch of the imagination. So, we have exactly the same approach. So the reason you don't hear us talking so much about Easy Prep now is because essentially Easy Prep is full to the maximum capacity that it's ever going to reach. So it's never going to go. It's never going to go any bigger than it is now, because we wanted to be able to retain that level of customer service. And by the way, guys, we're not saying that anyone that does run a big prep center out there doesn't know how to deliver customer service. There are some really big prep centers with hundreds of clients that are run like well-oiled machines. It's nothing to do with that whatsoever. It's obviously, like we said, different strokes for different folks. And for us, I think when you're doing this type of business, and you said it yourself, but you don't perceive yourself to be in a 30,000 square foot. You want it as another income stream to your business, but also at the same time being able to facilitate other sellers as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That's good to hear. Definitely refreshing to hear, for sure. So just a quick shout out, obviously, for the prep center while you're here. So you guys, I don't know why it hasn't got the names on here. And so anyone who is maybe thinking about using a prep center, we're going to come on and talk about, there we go. Pack FBA, maybe a little bit of Thomas Parkinson, inspired
Very
there.
true. Very true.
But if anyone does want to get in contact with you, it's the usual, usual kind of mediums. Website, fast.
Website, yeah. If you basically, if you come through our website, we'll always have an initial call with you, just to kind of chat to you, make sure that you're ready for a prep center as well. Because I think a lot of people they kind of think kind of straight away we need a prep center, when after a bit of a talk, it can be very good to prep yourself if it's possible. In your business, it's great to be able to prep yourself, and we do always say that, kind of especially at the start when you're starting out, just so you know what goes into it. But yeah, so we'll have an initial call with you, talk about just eligibility, talk about requirements, and if you fit it and we have space, then yeah, absolutely welcome aboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, get in touch with Dan, guys, obviously, if you do want to talk about, because I always say to people, in terms of trialing prep centers, it's important to trial. It's important to see what works for you, see how the prep center works. I love the fact that you guys give a call as well, so you can talk through certain things and ask as many questions as you want, that type of thing. And Q4 pretty much now is quite a good time to be able to, come on board, because I think sometimes when you get right into the depths of Q4, there's not a lot of prep center spaces at that time. That's when everyone starts panicking and go, I need a prep center. But by that time, prep centers do, tend to either close doors and fill up and whatever. So I think it's always important to make those kind of inquiries now. So if you are looking for a prep center and you want to talk things through with Dan, please get in contact, presumably either via Facebook, website, that type of thing. We're all so connected in the world of social media now that it's impossible to not find someone essentially, but you are part of the Secret Wealth Project Facebook group anyway, so they can always tag you in there if they've got any questions. So let's talk about Q4 prep now that we're on it. Oh, Cindy's just come in and asked, do you prep bundles?
We do indeed. Yeah. All your bundle needs. Absolutely.
All your bundle needs. I think Cindy's like, I know the level of bundling that Cindy does. And she's like, oh, bundles. Yeah, you might regret that one. But that's the other thing as well. And, this is important when considering a prep center as well. I don't want people to think, it's a bit like what you said with VAs. When you do take on a prep center, essentially, if that's the route that you want to go down, sometimes it's not realistic to send everything to one prep center, or it's not realistic to not prep and have good.
Especially in coronavirus, for sure. Like it's all about diversification. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, please feel free to reach out to Dan and, go through any of those questions and things like that, because, you seem like a really straight shooter in the sense that, if someone comes to you and said, do you know what? Because people hedge their bets. I encourage people to hedge their bets over Q4 and say, if you're a big volume seller, use a couple of sellers, a couple of prep centers. And I think that's a lot more realistic now, and I think a lot of the prep center owners know that and encourage it as well.
I was going to say it makes, consider we have no minimum really, so it doesn't really make it makes no difference. Like if you use 1 or you use 10, as long as you're happy, kind of come on board. Yeah, we're happy to have it.
That's good to hear. So prep for Q4.
Yeah.
So take away, you know, sort of the prep center side of things. Let's just have a talk about what people can do if they're going to continue to prep themselves. If prep centers not really for them, what are some of the in order to maximize their prep during Q4?
Yeah. So the getting the right equipment. Okay, and I think the thing I always quote is when I first started prepping my units, I remember printing off labels, cutting them out with scissors and sellotaping them onto my instrument. I know, just baffling, right? And we're talking 30 units in an hour here. Terrible. Nowadays we've advanced a little bit. We've done a bit of market research. We know what we're doing, and you can get laser labels, kind of laser printers, everything. Yeah, there you go, straight away. And the moment you do start to hate it is probably the time you need to get it gone. Who was that? Rimaz.
Rimaz says, sitting and prepping now, hate it. And you know what? Anyone that's, because you do get people coming on and going, I love prep. And I'm sure someone sat there thinking, oh, I love prep. You know.
No.
I literally hate prep. I was saying to you before, you know, oh no, I think I was saying to Thomas earlier, I was like the worst prepper in the world in terms of what I did. Was a really good tip though, and they actually adopted this into the prep center because people used to think I was mad. What I used to do is take all the stickers off and stick them on me, and so instead of, and it's so much quicker than being able to I've just realized what I've said out loud. I've become like a human post-it note where I just literally I put them all up my arms, I put them on me and everything like that. And it's just, if you're doing like 50 items, like if you're doing like 50 skinny tan bottles or something like that, bam, 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 bam. There we go. Top tips for prepping. Make yourself a human prepper. There we are. I knew there'd be one. Kay says, I like prepping. Like, not I'll let you have that one. Caitlin says, haven't prepped for ages and needed to do 2 boxes today. It took me 2 hours out practice for sure. It is such a time suck prep, but it's actually, it's really valuable. And I'm not saying, like I said, I feel I can't, I mean, obviously we outsourced the prep because we had a prep center, of course we did, but I don't want anyone to think that I can still hate prep and not like be, but still it's a really vital part to the business, and you have to have certain things in place before you can even consider outsourcing your prep. You need to have the right margins within your business. You need to know your figures, because if you are running at 8 or 9% profit margins within your business, there's no way that you can really consider outsourcing your prep on top of that. So okay. But it's something, so I don't want anyone to think, oh, okay, you're only sat here because you're just saying everyone's got to outsource prep. It's really essential. Some people outsource sourcing first, some people don't do it themselves, and they continue to do it themselves for a long period of time. I think it's something that it's really personal to you and your business, and obviously having a service like Dan's where you can have a chat with him, like you said, and we used to do this at Easy Prep. We'd have a conversation with someone and we'd say, look, I don't know if you're in the position, maybe outsource a little bit of it, maybe send us bundles, maybe send us the complicated stuff, and you can kind of ease into it from that point of view. It's not an all or nothing service, is it?
No, not at all. And I think the largest bit we usually speak to when we kind of speak to clients is we say the moment you kind of realize that you're at a point where the time that you're putting into your Amazon business is operational, you're the strategic thinker of this Amazon business. And for your Amazon business to be growing kind of at the rate you might want it to be growing, you might need to be spending a lot more time on the strategic side of things and kind of figuring out how to kind of make your product sourcing more efficient, or you kind of make kind kind of little different systems in terms of reimbursements, or it sounds ridiculous, but little kind of changes there will only come from strategic thinking. And if you get to a point where you're spending a lot of your time on the operational side of things, where you could afford to be kind of getting out to a prep center, I feel like that's maybe the stage where you're kind of ready for this prep center. Or, of course, if you quite literally do not have the time to be prepping, they're kind of those two ones for me. Because I always say to people, if you use a prep center and you don't do anything with that time that you save, you're going to end up hating the prep center. You're going to end up just resenting. You're going to end up resenting the fact that you're having to pay a fee. But we've seen people that have come in, they've outsourced their prep. They're gaining 30% revenue, like kind of month on month, just simply because suddenly they've got all this free time where they're able to research different things. They're able to kind of research automation. They're able to research product sourcing. And then suddenly they're flying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really important as well. And you've made a really, that's a big golden nugget for people there, that if you are in a position where you want to outsource your prep, you've not done it before, and you have prepped for a certain period of time within your business, that unless and it's the easiest thing in the world to say, well, just increase your margins, increase your ROI. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to stay at the same ROI and you have to take a little bit less profit, because obviously you're now paying out a fee to a prep center. But what you can do, providing you maximize that time, then hopefully you compound that effort a little bit more. And yes, your overall margin might be down, but you're selling more of it, if that makes sense. Exactly. So overall, it could go up. So you've got to be smart in the way that you outsource these type of things, because again, it's a cash flow issue as well. If you're someone that's sending in 2,000 units a month at 50p a go, as an average or something like that, that's $1,000 a month. That's your bill every single month. And as good as you guys are, you don't say, hey, wait to pay us until you've sold it. We'd all love to be able to do that, but it's an upfront cost. So you have to be in a good position in your business to be able to do it. So top tip from me, if you're not using a prep center at the moment, if you're not quite there at that point in your business, but you hope to be in the future, start accounting for that cost now within your margins, because then it's not such a big shock when you make that transition. And also, if you're allowing 50p, 60p, 70p, whatever, physically take it out of your business, put it in a different account. All of us should have lots of different accounts for lots of different pots for cash flow, for budgeting, for costs, for things like that. Physically take that money out, work how many units you've prepped and sent yourself. If it's 100 units, take 50p out. That's £50. Yeah, something like that. Take that out, physically take that out of your disbursement, put it in another pot. So then when you get into the habit of doing it, so when it comes to paying those prep bills later on, it's not such a shock to the system. So yeah, that's the top tip from me on there. Sean says prepping is definitely time consuming. It is. And I think the thing is, it's probably, for me, when I talk about outsourcing, I always first of all talk about the two biggies, which is sourcing and prepping. Both can be outsourced successfully. Sometimes you kiss a few frogs until you get to that point. But there's two major factors, and it really depends on what you prefer doing or what your business allows you to do first. Is sourcing is what makes you money, essentially. Prepping saves you money. It doesn't make doing it yourself. It technically saves you money. It doesn't make you any money. But I would even go as far to say that, if you've got the margins to be able to do it within your business, it's the value of time. Yeah. Like someone, Caitlin said, 2 hours, right? To do 2 boxes today in order to do that. Imagine what you could do in that 2 hours. And I tell you what,
even if you sourced kind of 20, I'd say 10 ASINs or something like that, there you go, you're away. You've paid for that.
Imagine what you can do with that time. So it's a double, the way I see it, for if you can outsource your prepping, and why I would always outsource the prepping first if it was me and I have my time in traditional arbitrage again, is because that time that you save, you can maximize it, I think, tenfold compared to what you could do by outsourcing your sourcing first. And I think that's the right formula. I'm not saying I'm right, listen to me, that's it. But I do think if you had to ask me which order I would do it first, I would outsource the prep first.
Yeah. I think, to be honest with you, just taking it back to kind of the automation side of things, the quality of life for some people get into Amazon because they want a outsourced business. It is one of those side hustles that you can completely digitize and work from a laptop. Some people don't want to be essentially billing themselves as someone who is prepping throughout the day. They want to be running kind of a digital business where even if they do take a 20%, 30% hit on their kind of their overall turnover, if it means that they can be having it completely touch-free, a lot of people would absolutely choose it. And it means they'd never have to touch a label in their life.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something I always recommend doing from day one within your business, allowing for that prep cost, because it gives you the freedom to be able to do it later on. I don't encourage it doing it outsourcing from day one. I do think it is important to get to know the system, to see how it works, to see how, the Amazon selling machine works, how the cogs work, claiming a reconciliation, that shipment hasn't arrived, what's an FC transfer, all this different type of thing. So I would say even if it's your goal to be, I knew someone was going to say it. I love prepping. But I can't see who said it, actually. The name hasn't come up at this stage. But I can't see who it was, but it's not showing on mine. But even if you can, just do it for 3 months, just to get to know that system, just so you can understand, because I'm a firm believer in how can you successfully outsource something if you don't know how to do it yourself. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Someone, I'm sure, will prove me wrong. I'm sure, but that's just my opinion on that. So Rimas says, is it good if I already add 40p prep costs, even if it costs less? I think so. I think it's better to go higher and then to be able to, I overestimate rather than underestimate, because you don't want to be in a position later down the line where your figures don't work out. One of the big things that we always talk about, when I talk to people either one-to-one or, have a chat with someone and they're like, I don't get it. I don't get why my money always runs out, or I don't get why this happened. It's because they've underestimated, they're not accounting for costs, or they're not doing this. So it's better to overestimate. And what that then does is when you come to a shipment where you're sending in 4 oversized products and it's costing, £4 to send those in, it's costing £1 each, then it's averaging out. I think best way to be able to work out prep costs is to do a little bit of a continual and ongoing review of how much it's costing you to send it in, and account for your boxes, account for prep fees, account for your UPS fees, account for your packaging, your tape, your labels, and everything like that. And then literally divide all those costs by the amount of units you've set in. Do that month 1, then do it quarterly. And then when you've been doing it, you can do it yearly. So you can get that true mean figure of what your average prep cost is. And then, you'll know exactly how much it's costing you in prep. But I also do argue as well, when you're prepping yourself, you need to pay out for a lot of stuff. And sometimes people don't realize sometimes can be a little bit of a false economy prepping yourself. And it might be cheaper to get a prep center to do it for you anyway.
Yeah. And there are perks as well. I mean, we have literally with our, a little plug, of our prep center is we give our clients kind of 10 to 15 online arbitrage deals per day. So just as a little kind of added extra, there are little things that we can do to kind of help grow the clients. And I think it's almost being able to kind of merge in with some of the knowledge that's out there. If you can be kind of networking, with some of the people just in the industry, it's by far the best way to be learning just about this entire thing. And then that just starts with making connections, and that's pretty much that's what we try and do at Fastback.
Yeah. For sure. Just to clarify for anyone that might have said that, Dan just said online arbitrage deals. You don't take like online arbitrage deals.com and give them to them.
Oh no, sorry. Oh no.
I just wanted to clarify. I don't think anyone would have thought that.
No.
I thought, oh my God, just in case they thought, oh, because obviously two separate businesses completely.
Oh, God, yeah. Sorry about that. No.
We'll clarify that. I knew you didn't mean that. And I'm sure that everyone knew that you didn't mean that as well. But I thought, okay, I better just clarify that for sure. So yeah, always account for prep costs when you can. So let's talk about sending shipments in during Q4 if you're not using a prep center, and then we'll talk about if you are using a prep center. Top tips for sending stuff in over Q4. Managing people's expectations, and really, especially for people who maybe this might be their first Q4, or even if it's just your second or third, I do think shipment delays are going to have an impact this year. I don't know if you're seeing that yourself. Are you seeing levels of slower shipments at this time of the year?
As of right now, absolutely fine. We usually, in my own experience, kind of hit the October, November, kind of December time, and then it starts creeping up a little bit. We definitely recommend, obviously, like if you can be getting your stock in as soon as possible to Amazon, it's vital, especially with the way that kind of prices tank and kind of go down. You want to be kind of putting them in, giving them the best chance possible, really, which actually kind of does come back to, if you use a prep center that can get your stock in maybe that little bit quicker, the price that you think you're spending on your prep can actually be saved by the margin that you would be making when you sell the goods. Because if you're taking a week or two, you're having it lying around your house, you can't really get to it. If in a week or two that price might have tanked by maybe £1, £2, but use a prep center, could be in a little bit quicker. Kind of if you're able to follow that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like getting it in, speed is everything, I think, in online arbitrage especially. Yeah, that's probably the main bit from us, I reckon.
Yeah, cool. I missed David's comment. I think this is when I was talking about being a human post-it note, which was David says 5 labels on my left hand at a time works for me. LOL. Yeah, sure. Top tip. I don't think I've ever publicly said that, but yeah, make yourself a human post-it note. Believe me, it makes it so much easier. And do you know what's really funny as well? Again, probably shouldn't say this. I never did it at the prep center, only prepping my own goods. Is when you cover it yourself, what used to be really funny was I'd be like, I'm a label short or something like that. I'd be like, I'm a label short. I must have double labeled one or anything like that. And Matt turned around, it'd be like on my shoulder or something. He'd be like, it's on your shoulder. So you always knew that you took off the right amount and put them on. But yeah, that was maybe a little bit too personal. So slower shipment times, we can expect those a bit later on in the year. What can people do? Do you do pallets, or is it just UPS?
Yeah, we do pallets. Again, it does just come back to, I probably sound like a broken record here, but it is just, to me, it's the speed of receiving it and getting it out again. If you're hot on that, ideally, obviously you're hot on that, but then I guess I'm contradicting myself here, because you need to make sure it's right first time. If you're in Q4 and you're sending your stuff in and it's labeled wrong and it's going to get held up in the prep centers, it's going to then have to it might have to be returned to you. You're going to be spending weeks with stock that maybe if you spent an extra 5-10 minutes making sure that everything's been labeled correctly, you wouldn't have that issue. So implement quality checks. Make sure that you're quality checking at different stages. There are kind of different ways that we do it, which is kind of through little pieces of software, I guess, that we use in our prep center. Or we kind of have, obviously, we have the guys, the team, virtual assistants that we have on, which are just absolute wonders with kind of helping us out with the admin side of things. But yeah, if you can stick to some standardized quality checks that you're always going to remember. So whether that is quite literally, if you're prepping a box of multiple shipments, get one of every SKU out at the very end and just check the label. Make sure you've put the right label on one of each of the different products. Its likelihood is you've probably then done the right kind of amount for the rest of them. But the moment you see that one label's been put on a shampoo that should have been on a conditioner, then suddenly you can check the rest of them and you might have just completely labeled it all wrong. So a tiny little check can make a world of difference in terms of your cash flow and not holding up stock.
Yeah, sure. And combine that with being a human post-it note. If you have one label left over at the end, you know you missed one.
There you go. We have to implement that as a quality check.
If I don't hear FastPat FBA doing the human post-it note at the end, then yeah, I'm going to be really, really disappointed. So Q4, is there any sort of set time when people shouldn't be sending goods in over Q4, or when do you say to anyone kind of pack it in now, game over, it's over?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends what you're selling. And shout out to BuyBot Pro here in terms of kind of your risk mitigation, everything that you need to be doing. If you're selling advent calendars, for example, and it's getting to the 24th, don't be buying 200 advent calendars realistically. You never know. You really need to be looking at the bestseller ranks and how they track throughout the years. If it is a product that is selling well through January, you could be the person, if you send in on the kind of the 16th or the 18th and you get your box that goes in, you could be the lucky guy that's then suddenly on the listing by yourself with a product that sells well in January. So yeah, no, certainly I wouldn't discount kind of completely stopping. I think nowadays I'd probably give myself a few days off over Christmas. I probably didn't in the past because I just kind of loved it so much. But I think now I've got it to a point where it can be automated. I'm happy to kind of give myself that little bit of time off. But for many people, there's a lot of money to be made in those days if you can be taking advantage of it. So really do religiously use BuyBot. Like look at the bestseller rank graphs and everything there. Really understand the graphs that they show you, because in this game, like, data is power. Like, that is exactly what you need. Every kind of decision should be basing it on should be data. I think that's exactly what kind of BuyBot does. I don't think I know anyone really that's selling on Amazon that isn't using BuyBot at the moment, especially in kind of my inner circle. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's amazing to hear. And I'm sure Matt and Karen will be thrilled to hear that.
Smart, them guys.
Yeah, because I know that they put so much effort into, producing personally what I think is the best, Amazon analyzing tool out there for sure. So, trust in the data. A lot of information does go into it for sure. So, and if you're not using BuyBot Pro, make sure you check those guys out for sure. We've got Yegar here says, my issue with online and retail arbitrage deals are usual immediate, which doesn't allow much anything for sending in goods early. How do you work around this, especially when you're new to Q4 and you've got no prior history to pull on? I think what I'm trying to say is you've not got your own personal selling history to pull on. But of course, if you've got something like BuyBot Pro, you can look at last year's selling history. And that's where you have got to trust in the data and know that, what sold last year, there's a good chance that it's going to sell, in similar quantities, if not more, this year, because we know year on year Amazon's growing. Yeah.
Personally, if you do 4 to 6 weeks of stock, that's when you're going to be hitting this is what Amazon wants for your restock limits. I don't know if anyone's been hit hard by SSQL, the things that have come in. You want to be getting your restock limits as high as possible. And to do that, you need to abide by the Amazon rules. To be doing that, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks of inventory. You want your excess inventory cleared. You want your stranded inventory cleared, everything like that. Get on top of these and really understand the model of fulfillment by Amazon, because FBA it's not a storage facility. It's literally a fulfillment facility. So if you can be making sure that your stuff's flying through, then you're going to be best placed.
Yeah, for sure. We've been banging on about that for a really, really long time. This is not SBA. It is not storage by Amazon. They want the goods to come in and they want the goods to go out. So yeah, 30 days is getting close as possible to that 30-day in-stock inventory. That's where Amazon want to be. Philip says, my main concern at the moment is around toys, where you send the stuff in and the listings get removed due to DOC requests. Do you guys check to see if an ASIN is on the list, or is that done by the seller? That's a great question.
It's a good question. I think for the most part, we really do kind of hope that kind of due diligence there is done from the Amazon seller. I think it's good practice yourself to understand it and know what you're doing. But I'd say what we are doing, and this is kind of why I call us a bit of like a boutique prep center, is we really do try and work with our clients. We very much have a motto of, if we can get our clients to grow, then we're going to grow from that. It's kind of like a you grow, we grow, because then if we can get you guys to grow, send us more units, it's a very mutually beneficial relationship that kind of comes from it. So in terms of kind of due diligence, I definitely say that we would try and educate our clients on what they should be sending us and how they should be sending it. But I would definitely be recommending things like that, like really understand it yourself. The kind of the base of knowledge should be coming from yourself, and that base of understanding kind of, I wouldn't rely so much on others for something that can, again, get your cash flow completely tied up. And it does just come back in this business to cash flow constantly. That's what ends Amazon businesses. And if you can stay on top of that, you can absolutely smash it.
For sure. Don't know. So that shout out, you grow, we grow. Absolutely. Ollie said that for sure. Right. Well, we've gone past the hour. Always, we are having fun here. So time flies when you're having fun, for sure. So just to wrap up, and before we go, Dan, are there any tips? We've had some people on tonight that maybe it's their first Q4, but maybe not limiting it down to that. But from a prep point of view, are there any tips that you want to give any extra to people that maybe have not experienced their first Q4, or, from a prep point of view, what you talked about, getting the right things in place? Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, get a plan, like really understand it. Don't have stuff just throwing around your house and just kind of like just in a mad rush. Get spreadsheets, like data. Like if I can ever say anything to anyone, it's just data. If you can understand data and you can learn to just be organized with what you're doing, and I really do mean that. Like when you have an order sheet for when you're buying stuff, when it comes in, check that you've audited it. Even if it comes at home, check that you've got the 10 from the supplier and they've not sent you 9, because that can kill your entire margin. And it happens. It happens a lot. It happens a lot, especially if you're buying toys. It could be £20 that goes without you realizing it. So really do use Excel. I mean, I'm a real Excel kind of lover, I'd say, for anything Amazon related. You can tie things together brilliant. For your prepping, use the data, use software. Like, honestly, the risk mitigation that kind of BuyBot, I will keep banging on about it. The kind of
feel free. You can bang on about BuyBot Pro as much as you want.
Absolutely. Like the risk mitigation that can teach you is huge. For Amazon, like it's massive. And with the prep, like relax, put a bit of Netflix on, take a break as well. Your fingers can hurt after a bit of constantly prepping. And then when you get bored, give me or Natalie a ring, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once you've maximized watching all the current and previous episodes of Nevermind the Buy Box, then you can put Netflix on after that. You've got to have your downtime as well. You've absolutely got to have your downtime. And if you are doing something as laborious and boring as prep, do whatever you need to do to get through it. That's what I say for sure. But, just a final tip from me, make sure you do actually, if you're going to be, try and stick with consistency over the Q4 period of sending in goods, because I tell you what, shipment times can take a little bit longer. So I think it's really important to ensure that you have a constant stream of goods going into Amazon, of very different variety of products, because certain products and categories and niches sell at different points during Q4, and it's just important to keep that flow of goods going in, regardless of whether you're prepping yourself, whether you're using a prep center, whether you're using a combination of both, whether you're using, 3 different prep centers, it's important to keep that consistency flowing, guys, because, it is, I'm not a big fan of the saying of feed the beast, but it's so true. When you're not sat around twiddling your thumbs, waiting for 2 boxes to ship in, and you've got a constant flow of products coming in, then you kind of forget about waiting for stuff to because you've always got something landing, if that makes sense. And so especially that's more important than ever during Q4. So before we go, Dan, what's in store for the future for you as an Amazon seller? You've talked about wanting to maybe do a bit of traveling later on, a bit of private label. Where do you see yourself in this time next year and in 5 years time?
It's a good one. I'm loving the prep center at the moment. I think it's fantastic. I'm really liking it. We've got a great group of guys there that we're kind of working with. So I'm loving that. We've just kind of really thrown in as well to a piece of software for the prep center, just to kind of help out with a few things of just on the client side. I think that'll be really exciting when that lands. We're kind of just waiting at the moment. I don't think we realise kind of how much how much effort kind of really getting something designed and thrown through really does take. So loads of testing going on there. So yeah, no, I'm gonna carry on with the UK model. I'm gonna really hope that Pan EU starts as well. Exactly, yeah. If we can get back into Pan EU just as a UK seller quite easily, I'd really recommend people to do your due diligence around all the tax requirements, because that's your big one with Pan EU, especially like having the right accountant in place. But yeah, I'd carry on, bit the same. I'd say I'm loving it.
It's growing.
Absolutely, just growing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I've got no doubts whatsoever that you and the team will make that possible from everything that you've said tonight. So thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. Again, I feel like I've said before we go about 4 times now. The only other thing I wanted to mention tonight, guys, is don't forget Karen and Matt are going to be launching some software that has been in development for the past 2 years. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock on a webinar. Yes, very, very exciting. It's a bit of a secret still what it is. So, I don't really know, to be perfectly honest, truly what it is. It's one of those questions, that Matt sort of said, ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies situation. So I know that there is, at last count, I think it's about 750 people have registered for this webinar, and there's only a 500 person capacity for the webinar. And I know that they're going to be making a ridiculous offer on the webinar, but only for the people who are on the webinar. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, if you want to be there and you want to, be what they're calling a founder within the release of the new software, and you haven't signed up for the link yet, drop a comment in the comments or post in the Secret Wealth Project Facebook group, and we will make sure that you have an invite. But if it was me, I'd made sure I'd be logging in about 6:45 tomorrow night, just to make sure I get my space. That's the way I'll do it. So big shout out to those guys tomorrow night. They're going to have a busy night for sure. Dan, it's been amazing. And, it's been so insightful to talk to you about how your business has grown, the transition that you've had to make over the last, the last year in particular within your business. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'm sure you have. Everything that Dan's talked about tonight has been pure gold for sure. If you do want to reach out to Dan, like I said, drop him a message. Fast Pack FBA is his prep center. Happy to have a chat with you to see how they can potentially help your business moving forward. Dan, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
Well, indeed. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.